had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Claire, I'm not standing here asking you to marry me. I'm just asking you not to marry him.
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow.
It's the Al Travis Show, and we are absolutely lucky to have our next guest on. He's Representative Walter Hudson. You're like, Al, you get him all the time. Yeah, but he's also doing Fox News. I get done with you, whatever day it was last time you were on, and literally, it must have been last week, and then literally I'm going through the channels, and there's Representative Hudson on Fox. Congratulations, sir. Well done.
Thank you. It was my honor.
I appreciate you doing the program as well. I want to hit you with this, and I don't think here's a hot take. I think the press in Minnesota might be covering for Walz. Case in hot take on the Al Travis Show. Here's my point. Today's story in the Star Trib is all about the fact that President Donald Trump came out and claimed that Democrats have allowed $1 billion heist to take place in Minnesota. We've all heard it, right? I mean, this is that. The full story in the Star Trib is how they haven't proved it's $1 billion yet. Oh, there's 180 million here and 15 there, and then they go through this list, but it's not $1 billion. Is that the story? Is that the story?
So there's a couple issues with that. First of all, this is a example of a game that's very commonly played, especially in Minnesota legacy media, where instead of focusing on a story, they instead choose to focus on the Republican reaction to the story. We call it Republican pounce, right? Or Republican seize. And it is an incredibly just the fact that that's the story's framing tells you that they are indeed being dishonest and politically motivated, right? Because you never see stories of Democrats seize upon X, Y, or Z, or Democrats pounce on. The story is never about the Democrats' reaction. It's always about the underlying thing, right? So, for instance, when Trump revoked the temporary protected status for Somalis, the headline wasn't Democrats pounce on Trump immigration policy. No, it was Trump
does this
rejects or rescinds temporary protected status.
But when you're writing that story, Representative, and you're the guy who has to write this story, and you get these hundreds of words done, you look at it, you're like, okay, the next thing is, so what was the number then? What are you claiming that, it's only $900 million? Oh, well, then I have no reason to be upset. Al himself should not be upset. It's only $900 million. It's a horrid story because you lose if people think you lose anyway. Donald Trump exaggerated the number. It wasn't $1 billion. It was only $900 million. Shocker. Meet Donald Trump. My point is that isn't the problem. I'm being stole blind and I don't like it.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And this is something that Democrats themselves have been doing, certainly in the House. I have experienced it during committee hearings where we've talked about fraud. And this was back during my first term. We were talking about feeding our future. And the Democrats on the other side of the table would waste time quibbling over the amount, right? It's like the amount is beside the point. The point is that it happened. But then on this issue of it, whether it's $1 billion, first of all, it's not Republicans who you're calling liars or who you are inferring or exaggerating. It's the U.S. attorney, okay? The U.S. attorney has said that it's $1 billion. We have other sources that are not us that are saying that it's up to $8 billion that will be discovered when all is said and done. I mean, you had U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson in his press conference announcing those 8 indictments, saying that the majority of state funding going to these Medicaid waiver programs is funding fraud, that the waiver programs are basically just fraud programs. That's the U.S. attorney, okay? So, I mean, what's the public interest in quibbling over the number when you have ample evidence of a systemic problem that, quite frankly, is increasingly difficult to believe is anything other than intentional?
Is this?
Certainly, we have multiple people saying that efforts to bring it to light and do something about it have resulted in retaliation against state agency employees. It's resulted in a culture of suppression where people are told to look the other way. I mean, and it's not one or two people saying this. And so to focus in on the Republican reaction to the story is an effort to bury the story.
Well, see, that's where I'm going. This is, I believe, a momentum slower downer.
Yes.
Wonderfully spoken, Al. Is that the momentum in the last week since all this came out on national news and everywhere else was this ball rolling down on Tim Walz, right? The snowball of, there a rumor out there who's going to take his place when he gets Biden out of running for this, right? So this is running, and then all of a sudden the story today, full front page, well, it wasn't $1 billion. He's lying. You know what I'm saying? This is just a get it off the front page for a couple days story, isn't it? I mean, there's nothing newsworthy here. It wasn't $1 billion. Well, we'll see. We don't even know that. In the story, when you get done, well, we haven't added it all up yet because we haven't caught everybody yet. I mean, it's a horrid story is my only point. Anyway.
Yeah, it's not news. What they're engaged in with that is not the reporting of news. That is a political what do they call it? A response commentary. Like they're engaged in a political communication operation, not reporting journalism, right? That the idea that the top story in Minnesota is quibbling over what the number of fraud is. First of all, this isn't going to age very well, right? Because you think the number is going to go down from whatever you're ending up right now. By the time all is said and done, again, the U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson has said that we're not going to prosecute our way out of this. He could keep 1,000 prosecutors busy. He's only got 5 working on it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think you want to talk about trajectory? What do you think the trajectory of the official number, however you want to add it up, is going to be when all is said and done? And when that happens, people are going to be looking back at December 8th, 2025, when the Star Tribune put out a ridiculous story claiming that it's no big deal.
Yeah, and that's my point. There's no winning on that except, again, so why do it except for to slow down this momentum of everything's going against the Dems and Governor Walz. Let me ask you this. The Center for Medicare Medicaid Services, the agency kind of runs things here. They put a pause on like 14 state programs, right? They're going to put this pause on, say it's a disabilities program. They're just stopping it for 6 months. They think there's enough issues with whoever is doing it. They're just going to stop for 6 months. This sounds horrible, and I don't want this to sound this way about the disabled people in Minnesota, but if you can stop everything for 6 months and we don't have the disabled running in the streets or what, is it a program that's needed? If it isn't there for 6 months, can it not make it a year? I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, but it sure seems draconian to say stop for 6 months. It isn't needed.
Well, listen, congratulations on noticing the obvious, right?
Okay.
Listen,
thank you.
A lot of these
I'm a radio announcer, my friend. That's all we notice is the obvious. Thank you for playing.
Well, a lot of these programs don't exist in many other states. And to your point, you don't see children starving to death. You don't see people dying in the street because they're not receiving services. And indeed, going back to Joe Thompson's comment, if the vast majority of the money that's being allocated to these programs is going to fraud, then you're not actually stopping services anyway because no services are happening.
That's a great point. It's a great point. I just love your way to put out the obvious. I got to go to break. We've got more. I have one. No, we'll talk about it this side. I think it is just ironic as heck. It's in the news today, and I think you'll laugh at it. I got him, Representative Walter Hudson. More right after this.
When the stakes are high at the Minnesota Capitol, you need more than a lobbyist. You need a partner. At Momentum Advocacy, we bring nearly 90 years of combined experience in government relations, public affairs, and strategic communications. From nonprofits to national corporations, we help organizations navigate Minnesota's political landscape with integrity, insight, and results. Whether you need legislative champions or headlines, Momentum Advocacy delivers. For more, visit momentum-advocacy.com. Momentum Advocacy, your friends at the Capitol.
Think about it. Now that school's back in session, how are Minnesota students doing? Not very well. Minnesota ACT scores fell again last year and are the lowest they've been in 10 years. In fact, fewer than half of Minnesota students can either read or do math at grade level. Think about it. We used to brag about our schools. Now we're losing to states like Mississippi. Visit AmericanExperiment.org for more information. Think About It is brought to you by Center of the American Experiment, Minnesota's think tank.
The Al Travis Show, the last place you can go and hear all sides. Respectful, thoughtful, and grateful.
Love getting him on the program. He's Representative Walter Hudson. This next one's a side shoot. We get Rob Blind all the time, but this one I think is funny. From the Star Trib, St. Paul is trying to recoup $900,000 in damages. That's not $1 million, by the way. Just got to keep it real. From a contractor who allegedly blew deadlines, canceled meetings, and is yet to deliver the lesson plans to teach elementary school kids this program. They've done nothing. They're trying to get their money back. Do you know what the program is on? Financial literacy. I find it ironic. You just hand over $900K without getting crap. That'd be the first lesson of the day, I think, if I actually was a teacher and say, sit down, kids. I want to teach you a little lesson. Is that not ironic? $900K.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's something that only government would do, right? Like no private entity would hand over, I'll go ahead and say $1 million. Okay. No private entity would hand over that kind of money without getting something delivered first.
Exactly. We run things so backwards. And the fact is about financial literacy. There was a meme the other day. A friend of mine shared it. It was something about, I'm still waiting on my book about how not to get scammed on the internet. It hasn't showed up for 4 months or something. I'm like, that's exactly it. It's like, oh yeah, I'll make a financial literacy program that'll just cost you $1 million. No, oh, that's all. Okay, here's your check. And then you walk away. We make it so easy, I think, is my problem. And this just happens to be ironic as well. So, okay, fair enough.
Well, and again, and this is my big insight that I had recently, because I've been asking myself, how did this happen? Because this has been an ongoing, and I don't mean the fraud. I mean the story, the national attention on the story in recent weeks. Because a lot of us have been working for a long time to get national outlets to pay attention to what's going on in Minnesota, and we haven't been successful at doing so. So what changed? And what I figured the answer to that question is it was Donald Trump So first of all, him standing up and saying something about it, and then specifically what he said, the way he framed it. He didn't make it just about the fraud happening. He pointed out who was doing it. And that's what blew up the story. And in similar sense, with what you're talking about here in St. Paul, I would be willing to put money down on the bet that the reason why they were able to hand over all this money to whoever it is that they engaged with to have a course on financial literacy is probably because there was some DEI involved, right? That, oh, we're gonna give it to some up and coming group
Help
of
them on
folks
their way.
who look like the students, right?
Yeah.
Like, in other words, they prioritized an irrelevant consideration and probably handed them the money on the base. And the reason I'm saying this is because I've heard this type of reasoning before when dealing with these types of programs, where, well, we got to give them the money up front because, you know, they're underprivileged and we can't expect them to get the job done unless they have the resources today and blah, blah, blah. So in other words, they're prioritizing all this DAI nonsense as opposed to prioritizing getting the thing done and having it be high quality.
All right, let me go to the last one. I really want to get your side on this because I listen to almost everything you do. I do. I'm stalky on you. But I never hear you name call. We've said on this program, I am not thrilled with my president using the R word. We don't use it in my house. Okay, I get it. But he said a lot of crazy stuff. But that being said, watch out. He's got 3 years. He's not running again. I don't think this is the last time we're going to hear something out of him. But Senator Abler came out, and we know him, and he asked for this. The DFL party, the Senate DFLers, sent to the Senate GOP here in the state of Minnesota a letter saying they must publicly repudiate President Donald Trump. And then Senator Coleman comes out, who will be on tomorrow, and she says, sure, as soon as you apologize for calling us Nazis and fascists. Sir, this is like in fifth grade, and you pulled the little girl's ponytail in front of you, and she said this, well, she started, and she... It's a fifth grade argument at best from either side. Don't call names, I get it. Your thoughts on it? You don't do that stuff. You personally, you're just not a name caller. You might call out someone's issue and what that is, but you know what I'm saying? This can't be the way we do politics. And that can't be a story today, but it is.
So let me cut to the heart of it, right?
Okay.
You say it's a fifth grade issue, the way that the two sides are engaging with one another. I have a different perspective. Okay. There was a time in the past, in the not too recent past, where I would have been inclined to come out and criticize the president for using that type of language, or any Republican for saying things along those lines. I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that game anymore. I'm not playing the denunciation game. Right. And there are two reasons. Charlie Kirk, okay? Yep. And Jay Jones. Okay. I just watched Democrats have nothing to say about how horrible of a person Charlie Kirk was in the immediate aftermath, within hours of him being shot on video in the throat and dying. I saw Democrats eagerly run to mics and cameras and their phones to go on the record talking about how terrible he was and effectively justifying his assassination. And then with Jay Jones, he never disputed it. We have the receipts. He's telling his his Republican colleagues that he wants to see Republicans shot and that he wants to watch their children die in their mother's arms. And nobody denounced him on the Democrat side. In fact, they elected him. So I'm done playing the stupid denunciation game. I'm done playing this game where we all pretend that we have collective responsibility for everything that everybody says. Certainly until the Democrats at least have the decency to not celebrate Republicans and conservatives being killed.
See, I guess I'm with you in that this is going to go on. Politics, it has been this way for a long time. I might be getting more severe, like some of this stuff with laughing about dead people dying. I understand where you're coming from. But the idea that I'm trying to force you to denunciate something somebody else said, that's the point. It's a fifth grade argument. It's like, okay, you both must shake hands now and get along. Right, yes. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, now we're buddies. It doesn't fix anything. And that's the problem with all this. You know, I love having you on the program. I'm out of time. I thank you for coming on, Representative. I really do. I do love having you on.
I appreciate it.
He's Representative Walter Hudson on the Al Travis Show.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's